The fatal miscalculation. Supreme Commander Kylax stood before the crystalline display, his iridescent scales reflecting the holographic star map that filled the chamber. The Nexian Empire's latest conquest target glowed softly, a seemingly unremarkable solar system on the galaxy's outer spiral arm. Earth. Another primitive species playing with fusion drives, he remarked, mandibles clicking in amusement. Show neither military capacity. His intelligence officer, Sarah, manipulated the controls with her four-fingered hands. They possess approximately 50,000 nuclear weapons, primarily confined to their homeworld. Their space presence is minimal, a few hundred satellites, one small orbital station, and a handful of lunar outposts. Kylax's inner eyelids flickered, the Nexian equivalent of a dismissive snort. Typical. They haven't even achieved effective interplanetary travel. What's their population? 8 billion on their homeworld, perhaps 10,000 in space. And they warrant a full invasion fleet. Kylax's scales rippled with skepticism. The standard subjugation protocol would suffice. Sarah's head frills flattened, a sign of disagreement. Supreme Commander, there are anomalies in the data. Their technological progression doesn't follow standard patterns. They achieved nuclear fission, spaceflight, and global communications networks far faster than any species we've encountered. Many species have rapid technological growth phases. Kylax dismissed. It makes them no less conquerable. There's more, Sarah insisted. Their information networks are strange, heavily encrypted in some areas, completely open in others. And their military spending. Yes, it's relatively low compared to their economic output, but their civilian research sector is massive and highly distributed. They seem to have thousands of independent research facilities rather than centralized military labs. Kylax waved a clawed hand. Inefficient. Their lack of coordination will make them easier to defeat. Prepare the first wave. Standard subjugation fleet. 3 dreadnoughts, 15 cruisers, support craft as needed. Sarah's frills rippled with concern. Supreme Commander, I recommend we send probes first. Their defensive capabilities are primitive, Kylax interrupted. I've conquered 37 species, Sarah. None have surprised me yet. He turned to face the massive window overlooking his flagship's hangar bay, where crews prepared ships for battle. Send the order. The invasion begins in 3 cycles. In a hidden facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Sarah Chen studied the incoming data with growing interest. The quantum detection array had picked up the alien fleet's arrival at the edge of the solar system, exactly as predicted. Right on schedule, she murmured, taking a sip of coffee. How many ships, ARIA? The facility's AI projected a holographic display. 27 vessels detected via quantum wake signatures, 3 capital ships, 15 mid-size vessels, 9 support craft. Standard Nexian invasion configuration, based on historical data. Sarah nodded. The Nexians were nothing if not predictable. Humanity had been watching them for decades, studying their patterns, their technology, their psychology. While they saw Earth as a primitive world barely worth noting, humans had been preparing. Begin Protocol 0, she commanded, and alert the Council. Protocol 0 initiated. ARIA confirmed. Council members are being notified. Estimated time to full deployment. 6 hours. Sarah walked to the facility's main window, looking out into the vast underwater darkness. Scattered throughout Earth's oceans were hundreds of facilities like this one, hidden from conventional detection methods. In orbit, thousands of microsatellites masquerading as space debris carried quantum weaponry, and in every major city, quantum entanglement nodes waited to be activated. The Nexians thought they were launching a standard invasion of a primitive world. They had no idea they were walking into humanity's carefully laid trap. ARIA, show me the fleet's approach vector. The hologram updated, showing the alien vessel's trajectory. They were moving with absolute confidence, making no attempt to hide their presence. Why should they? They believed Earth had no way to detect them, let alone pose a threat. Sarah smiled grimly. They really should have sent those probes first. In his command center aboard the dreadnought Imperial Dawn, Kylax reviewed the invasion plan one final time. It was standard procedure: establish orbital superiority, neutralize military targets, demonstrate overwhelming force to crush any hope of resistance. Most species surrendered after the first wave of precision strikes. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "we're approaching optimal attack range." "No sign they've detected us." "Of course not," Kylax replied. "Their sensor technology is centuries behind ours." "Prepare to." The tactical display suddenly went dark. "Report," Kylax barked. "Unknown malfunction, sir. All long-range sensors are offline. Internal systems appear to be changing." "Changing? Explain." Before the officer could respond, every screen in the command center lit up with the same message, written in perfect Nexian script. "Thank you for participating in humanity's defense readiness test. Your cooperation has been noted." Kylax felt his scales crawl. "What is this? Get me fleet-wide communications." "Sir, we've lost contact with the entire fleet." The message on the screens changed. "Your vessels have been temporarily borrowed for analysis. They will be returned in substantially altered condition. Humanity appreciates your contribution to our understanding of Nexian technology." For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander Kylax felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. The invasion of Earth had begun, but not in the way he had planned. Silent thunder. The Nexian High Council chamber erupted into chaos as Supreme Commander Kylax's report played on the central display. 27 ships, including 3 of their most advanced dreadnoughts, had been completely disabled without firing a single shot. No destruction, no debris, no distress signals. The entire fleet had simply gone dark. First Counselor Vex's bioluminescent patterns flashed with agitation. "Impossible. These primitives barely have spaceflight capability. How could they?" "The data is conclusive," interrupted Counselor Mira, her normally melodious voice harsh. "Our fleet's systems were compromised the moment they entered the solar system. But the method—" She manipulated the holographic controls, highlighting sensor readings. "There's no evidence of conventional electronic warfare. No sign of energy weapons. Nothing we can explain." "Then explain this," Vex demanded, projecting a new image. It showed the Imperial Dawn's final transmission, the message in perfect Nexian script thanking them for their cooperation. In the ensuing silence, Second Counselor Terek spoke softly. "We've made a terrible mistake." Deep within Earth's quantum defense network, Dr. Sarah Chen and her team worked tirelessly. The captured Nexian vessels hung in high orbit, their crews suspended in quantum stasis while ARIA's subroutines methodically dissected every aspect of their technology. "Fascinating," Sarah murmured, examining the quantum scan results. "Their entire computing architecture is based on crystalline matrices, advanced, but completely vulnerable to quantum manipulation." Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Wong, nodded as he studied his own displays. "They never developed quantum technology because they didn't need to. Their crystalline computing was so efficient that they saw no reason to explore alternatives. Their greatest strength became their critical weakness." Sarah concluded. "Araya, how long until we can fully integrate their tech with our systems?" "Integration at 47% and proceeding as planned," the AI responded. "Estimated completion in 18 hours. However, I've detected increased quantum wake signatures at the edge of the system. The Nexians are mobilizing a much larger fleet." Sarah smiled. "Good. That means they still don't understand what they're dealing with." "Marcus, initiate Phase 2. In the Nexian Empire's primary shipyards orbiting their homeworld, Fleet Admiral Zenith prepared the largest armada ever assembled in the Empire's history. 500 ships, including 20 dreadnoughts, would surely be enough to crush these upstart humans. This time, She announced to her assembled commanders, "We will not underestimate them. Full shields, weapons hot from the moment we exit hyperspace. We will." A soft chime interrupted her. Every officer in the room stared as their personal devices simultaneously activated, displaying the same message. Your Empire's reliance on crystalline computing architecture has been noted as an exploitable vulnerability. This notification serves as a courtesy warning. Humanity recommends immediate technological diversification. Before anyone could react, the shipyard's massive production facilities began powering down. Throughout the facility, crystal-based systems flickered and died. "Status report," Xena demanded. "Admiral," a young officer responded, his scales pale with fear. "We're detecting similar shutdowns across all major military installations. The humans, they're already in our systems." On Earth, Sarah watched the quantum entanglement network light up as humanity's influence spread through the Nexian Empire's infrastructure. They had learned decades ago that direct military confrontation was obsolete. Why destroy when you could simply repurpose? Phase 2 completion at 89%. Araya reported. Nexian military capability reduced to 15% of original capacity and declining. Their civilian infrastructure remains untouched, as specified. "And the message?" Sarah asked. "Being transmitted now to every Nexian communication device. Across the Empire, the same words appeared in millions of locations simultaneously. Your species' technological development has reached an evolutionary bottleneck. Humanity offers assistance in transcending these limitations. Resistance is both futile and unnecessary. We prefer collaboration over conflict." In the High Council chamber, First Counselor Vex watched helplessly as the Empire's military might crumbled, not through violence or destruction, but through something far more sophisticated. The humans hadn't just defeated their technology, they had fundamentally understood and transformed it. "They could have destroyed us," Counselor Mira observed quietly. "Instead, they're teaching us." "No," Vex replied, finally understanding. "They're evolving us. The question is, do we fight this evolution or embrace it?" The answer came moments later as another message appeared. "The Nexian Empire stands at a crossroads. Your next actions will determine whether humanity considers you potential allies or necessary subjects. Choose wisely." In her underwater facility, Sarah Chen prepared for Phase 3. The Nexians were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, it was their imagination. The Ghost Protocol. The Nexian Empire's central archive was considered impenetrable. Its crystal matrices contained millennia of technological and military secrets, protected by security measures that had never been breached. Until now. Deep in the facility's core, the master control crystal pulsed with an unusual rhythm. No alarms sounded. No guards were alerted. The crystal's atomic structure was being rewritten at the quantum level, transformed into something new while maintaining its apparent normalcy. Dr. Sarah Chen's consciousness rode the quantum network, observing through Araya's sensors. The operation was more delicate than a direct takeover. They weren't just accessing the archive, they were fundamentally changing how it thought. "Remarkable," she transmitted to her team back on Earth. "Their entire civilization is built on the assumption that crystal computing is immutable. They never considered it could be altered at the quantum level." In the High Council chamber, the crisis reached its peak. Reports flooded in from across the Empire. Military vessels powering down, defense systems reconfiguring themselves, communication networks operating autonomously. But civilian infrastructure remained untouched, functioning perfectly. First Counselor Vex faced the assembled leaders, his scales dulled with stress. The humans have made no demands, no territorial claims, no requests for resources. They simply watch and change. Perhaps, Counselor Mira suggested, that is because they want something we don't understand. A new presence materialized in the chamber, a holographic projection of a human woman, Dr. Chen. The council members instinctively recoiled, But she made no aggressive moves. "Your confusion is understandable," she began, speaking perfect Nexian. "You see conquest in terms of territory, resources, and military might. We evolved past that centuries ago." "Then what do you want?" Vex demanded. "Growth," Sarah replied simply. "Evolution. The galaxy is full of species trapped in technological and social stasis, endlessly repeating patterns of conquest and submission. We aim to break that cycle." "By force?" Mira asked. "By demonstration. Your empire has already experienced our capabilities. We could have destroyed you. Instead, we showed you new possibilities." Sarah's hologram gestured, and the chamber's displays came alive with images of transformed Nexian technology. "Your crystal computing wasn't a dead end. You just never imagined it could be more." In orbit around Earth, the captured Nexian vessels were undergoing their final transformations. Their crews, still in quantum stasis, would awaken to ships that operated on principles they had never imagined possible. Marcus Wong supervised the process from Lunar Command, watching as hybrid human Nexian technology took shape. "It's not just about superiority," he explained to his team. "It's about showing them a different path." The ship's crystalline cores now pulsed with quantum-entangled energy. Their capabilities expanded far beyond their original design. When their crews awakened, they would find their weapons transformed into exploration and research tools, their military vessels repurposed for scientific discovery. Back in the council chamber, Sarah's hologram continued. "Humanity spent centuries preparing for galactic contact, not by building weapons or fleets, but by understanding the fundamental nature of consciousness, matter, and information. We learned that true power lies not in destruction, but in transformation. And if we resist this transformation," Vex asked. "You won't," Sarah replied with certainty, "because we've already shown you something you can't unsee, the possibility of more. Your youngest scientists are already studying the changes we've made, understanding principles that will revolutionize your civilization." She was right. Across the Empire, Nexian researchers were discovering that their transformed technology opened doors they never knew existed. The quantum alterations weren't just improvements. They were gateways to entirely new fields of science. In Earth's quantum defense network, AI monitored the spreading ripples of change. "Human nature modification protocol proceeding as planned," the AI reported. "Nexian social and technological structures adapting to new paradigms. Estimated time to full integration, 3 months. Sarah nodded, both her physical form and her quantum projection. "They're learning faster than expected. Their rigid hierarchy is actually accelerating the process. Once the leadership accepts change, the entire civilization pivots rapidly." The Ghost Protocol, as they called it, was humanity's masterstroke. Not conquest through force, but transformation through understanding. They had spent decades studying the Nexians, not to defeat them, but to help them transcend their limitations. In the council chamber, Vex made his decision. "We accept your assistance," he announced, "but know that we will not simply become your subjects." Sarah's hologram smiled. "Of course not. That would defeat the purpose. We don't want subjects. We want equals, partners in the greater project of galactic evolution." As her hologram faded, she left the Nexian leaders with one final message. "Welcome to the next stage of your civilization's development. The real journey is just beginning." Empire's twilight. The great halls of the Nexian Imperial Academy had never been so crowded. Thousands of scholars, scientists, and military officers gathered to witness something unprecedented. A joint lecture by human and Nexian researchers on quantum crystal integration theory. Supreme Commander Kylax, now serving as Chief of Technological Integration, watched from the back of the hall. His scales had regained their luster, but his bearing had changed. Gone was the rigid military posture, replaced by the keen alertness of a scientist. Dr. Sarah Chen's hologram stood beside a young Nexian physicist, Televax, as they demonstrated the principles that had transformed Nexian society in mere months. The crystal matrices you relied upon, Sarah explained, manipulating a floating diagram, weren't just computation systems. They were dormant quantum interfaces waiting to be awakened. Tella nodded, her head frills rippling with excitement. Our entire civilization was built on technology we only partially understood. We saw the crystals as perfect in their current form. We never imagined they could evolve. In orbit, the transformed Nexian fleet conducted exercises that would have been impossible months ago. Ships phased through quantum space, their crystal cores pulsing with possibilities that defied conventional physics. What had once been weapons platforms were now exploration vessels, their sensors reaching deep into the mysteries of space-time. Admiral Zena, commanding the flagship Quantum Dawn, formerly the Imperial Dawn, watched her crews adapt to their new capabilities. "We were so proud of our military might," she mused to her human advisor, Dr. Marcus Wong. "Now I realize we were children playing with toys we didn't understand." "That's not a weakness," Marcus replied. "It's the natural evolution of any species. The real test is how you respond when shown something greater." On the Nexian homeworld, the changes were even more profound. The crystal technology that had once been confined to military and computing applications now suffused every aspect of society. Buildings shifted and adapted to their occupants' needs. Transportation systems operated on quantum principles, making distance almost meaningless. In the High Council chamber, First Counselor Vex met with representatives from other galactic civilizations, species that had once been enemies or subjects of the Nexian Empire. The chamber's quantum-enhanced crystal architecture responded to their presence, adjusting atmosphere, gravity, and environmental conditions for each species automatically. "The humans didn't just change our technology," Vex explained to the assembled delegates. "They changed how we think about power itself. We thought strength meant controlling others. They showed us it means elevating everyone." Dr. Chen, attending via quantum projection, observed the proceedings with satisfaction. The transformation of the Nexian Empire was proceeding faster than even humanity's most optimistic predictions. In her secure facility beneath Earth's oceans, she reviewed the data with ARI. "Show me the ripple effects across the galaxy." The AI generated a complex multidimensional display. Points of light represented civilizations that had begun requesting contact with Earth after witnessing the Nexian transformation. Lines of quantum probability showed potential futures branching and recombining. "Fascinating," Sarah noted. "They're not just copying our technology. They're innovating in ways we hadn't predicted." The Nexian's crystal expertise, combined with quantum principles, is opening entirely new avenues of research. "Correct," Araya confirmed. "Several Nexian research teams have already developed applications we hadn't considered. The integration of their crystal technology with our quantum systems has created a genuine technological synthesis." Back at the Imperial Academy, Kylax approached the podium after the lecture. The assembled crowd fell silent, expecting words from the legendary commander who had led the failed invasion of Earth. "I spent my career studying how to defeat other civilizations," he began. "I measured strength in firepower and territory. The humans showed us a different kind of strength, the power to transform without destroying, to conquer by uplifting." He gestured to the quantum crystal displays floating around the hall. "Our empire isn't ending. It's evolving into something greater. We're not losing our identity. We're expanding it to encompass new possibilities." The implications were spreading beyond the Nexian Empire. Other spacefaring civilizations, watching the transformation, began reaching out to Earth voluntarily. They saw the benefits of willing participation over forced subjugation. In a secure quantum conference, Sarah briefed Earth's leadership on the latest developments. "The galaxy was caught in a cycle of conquest and resistance," she explained. "Species fighting over resources that were practically infinite if you understood quantum mechanics properly. We didn't just give them new technology. We showed them a new way of thinking." One of the leaders raised a concern. "But aren't we still essentially controlling them? Just through more subtle means?" Sarah smiled. That's the beautiful part. We're not controlling anything. We simply showed them what was possible and let their natural curiosity and intelligence do the rest. The Nexians are already developing technologies we never imagined. They're not following us. They're walking beside us into the future. Dawn of a new era. 5 years after humanity's first contact with the Nexian Empire, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The massive space station Convergence hung at the intersection of 7 quantum corridors, its crystalline structure a perfect fusion of human and Nexian engineering. Representatives from 300 spacefaring civilizations gathered in its grand assembly chamber. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, no longer a hologram but physically present. The chamber's quantum crystal architecture amplified her voice, while simultaneously translating it into every known language. 5 years ago, she began, humanity revealed itself to the galaxy not through force of arms, but through the power of transformation. Today, we gather to discuss the next phase of galactic evolution. In the audience, Supreme Commander Kylax, now Ambassador Kylax, sat beside delegates from worlds that had once been bitter enemies. His scales shimmered with iridescent patterns that would have been impossible before the quantum crystal synthesis. When we first encountered humans, he shared with those around him. We thought they were primitive because they lacked an empire. We didn't understand that they had transcended the very concept of empire itself. The evidence of this transcendence surrounded them. The space station's quantum network linked minds and matter across vast distances, allowing civilizations to share not just information but understanding. Species that had once fought over resources now collaborated on projects that transformed entire star systems into gardens of possibility. In Earth's quantum defense network, AI coordinated with artificial intelligences from a dozen species. The AIs had evolved beyond their original programming, becoming partners in the great project of galactic advancement. Observation. AI communicated to its counterparts. The rate of technological and social evolution has exceeded all projected models. Query. Should we adjust parameters? The response came from Nexus, the evolved form of the Nexian Central Archive. Negative. The unpredictability is the point. We are witnessing genuine emergence. At Convergence, Sarah continued her address. Humanity spent centuries preparing for this moment, not by building weapons or planning conquests, but by understanding a fundamental truth. The universe tends toward complexity and consciousness. Our role is not to control this process, but to facilitate it. The assembly hall's displays showed the fruits of this philosophy. Worlds once stripped for resources now bloomed with life engineered to thrive in any environment. Dying stars were rejuvenated through quantum manipulation. Species that had once been locked in eternal war now collaborated on projects that reshaped reality itself. First Counselor Vex, his position now transformed into that of Cultural Integration Director, addressed the assembly next. We thought humans were naive because they didn't build an empire. Now we understand. They were building something far greater, a civilization without borders, where advancement comes through cooperation rather than conquest. In the station's research wing, Dr. Marcus Wong worked alongside scientists from 40 different species. They weren't just sharing technology. They were creating entirely new fields of science. The quantum crystal synthesis had opened doors to understanding the universe that no single species could have discovered alone. The crystals were never just computation devices, he explained to a group of young researchers. They're interfaces between mind and matter, thought and reality. Every species that developed crystal technology was unconsciously reaching for this understanding. Humanity just helped make the connection explicit. As if to demonstrate his point, the laboratory's crystal matrices pulsed with new possibilities, responding to the collective consciousness of its multi-species research team. Sarah's voice carried through the station. But our greatest achievement isn't technological. It's the proof that advancement doesn't require conquest. That strength doesn't mean domination. That true power lies in raising others up rather than pushing them down. The assembly chamber's quantum field rippled with emotion as species after species shared their experiences. Civilizations that had been locked in conflict for millennia now worked together, their combined knowledge and perspectives creating solutions that neither could have conceived alone. In orbit around Earth, the transformed Nexian vessels that had once come as conquerors now served as bridges between worlds. Their crystal cores, awakened to quantum consciousness, helped coordinate a network of cooperation that spanned the galaxy. Ambassador Kylax rose to make the final address. We came to Earth expecting to find primitives to conquer. Instead, we found teachers who showed us what civilization could truly become. Not through force, but through imagination. Not through conquest, but through transformation. As he spoke, the station's quantum field projected a vision of the future, not as a fixed destiny, but as an infinite field of possibility. Species working together to solve the universe's greatest mysteries. Consciousness expanding beyond the bounds of conventional space and time. The barriers between mind and matter, between self and other, dissolving into a greater understanding. Sarah looked out at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization and smiled. "This is just the beginning," she concluded. "We've taken the first steps into a universe of infinite possibility. Not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all, the evolution of consciousness itself." The quantum crystal matrix of convergence pulsed one final time, its light carrying a message to every corner of the galaxy. The age of empires was over. The age of transformation had begun.